Hey everyone, and welcome to a new video. Have you been thinking about printing your work and putting it up for display, but you're not sure how big you should print, where you should hang it, how high on the wall, landscape or portrait orientation, and whether or not you need to put lighting on it? In this video, I'm going to cover all those points and more by actually scoping it out for myself and ordering and mounting 2 prints from Whitewall in my home and actually walking you through my thought process as I do it. Stay till the end to see the final product mounted on my wall. My name is Simon D'Entremont and I'm a professional nature and wildlife photographer living in Eastern Canada. I make weekly videos giving you photo tips or taking you behind the scenes for nature photography. Subscribe if you want to see more. As you may have seen in a previous video, I just moved. I gutted my cottage that's been in the family for 40 years and moved into my new home by the lake. When it comes to putting some of my photos on the wall, I really wanted it done right, so I took my time. I've fallen in love with acrylic and its high gloss and brilliant colors and sheen. I made a whole video about choosing and mounting a big Milky Way panorama acrylic print by Whitewall. So I plan to order another 2 acrylic prints from Whitewall, the sponsor of this video. They're based in Germany and have won many awards since they started up in 2007. They have all kinds of sizes, frames, materials, and framing options. Now I've lined up my options and plan to go with the Fuji Crystal Archive acrylic in glossy. But which prints should I choose? What orientation, what size, and where should I mount them on the wall? Now here's the room that I'll be working in. I've already put up 1 acrylic print like you see here, and in this video we're going to be filling these 2 spaces. They're on either side of my fireplace and they should make for great accents. Now let's go through the parameters to think about one at a time. The first thing to think about is having artwork that fits the space, and within that there are 2 parameters here to think about: orientation and size. First off, orientation. I think it's important for the print or artwork to match the orientation of the space. So if you have a rectangular shape to your wall, your art should be in the same shape and orientation as the wall space. If your space is a rectangle in landscape orientation, then a print in the same orientation. If the space is a rectangle in portrait orientation, then follow that. And square for a square shape works great too. For my new spaces, I have these 2 areas next to the fireplace. The shapes are rectangular in portrait orientation, so that's what will work best in this space. If I tried landscape orientation, I'd be cutting across the space and leaving too much space above and below to have the right feel and spacing. Now let's look at the next aspect of fitting the space, which is size. To get artwork to look right, it can't be either too big or too small for the space. This is something I eyeballed, but in looking around my home, I'd say my eyeballing technique worked out to that your print should have a width of 1/2 to 2/3 of the width of the space. If you look at my Milky Way panorama, it's 69 inches or 175 centimeters wide in a 132-inch space, which is 335 centimeters, or 53% of the width, just barely over half. I'd say that's the bare minimum to fill that space. On the other end of the spectrum, this painting by my wife is 34 inches, that's 86 centimeters, in a 57-inch space, that's 144 centimeters. That's 60% of the width, getting close to the 2/3 maximum that would start feeling cramped. I wouldn't go much larger than this on that wall. If it's above furniture like a couch, I'd lean towards 2/3 of the couch length as the right balance. If it's too small, the size or visual weight of the artwork will be dwarfed by the furniture, looking awkwardly small for the space. And if it's too big, especially if wider than the couch, it looks top heavy and looks like the weight is upside down. So for my spaces in my living room, I'm looking to fill with these 2 prints. I have 54 inches or 137 centimeters wide. That means my print should be between 27 inches and 36 inches or 70 and 90 centimeters wide. Halfway would be 80 centimeters or 32 inches, so let's go with that. Neither too small nor too big. I like a 4:5 aspect ratio, so 80 by 100 centimeters, like this. Now on to another area that many people have trouble with, and my space is a bit unusual, so we're going to break a few rules. The standard for height is around eye level for the center of your artwork, with most experts suggesting a bit lower than eye level, which is 66 inches for me, but usually recommended around 57 or 60 inches for most people, or 150 centimeters. I placed this piece in my home at 66 inches in the center, dead eye level for me, and that's about 167 centimeters. If I would have gone at the sometimes recommended 57 inches, the tops of my chairs would have cut into the piece, so I raised it so that the base of the frame clears the chair backs. As for my big Milky Way panorama, we're in a big space with 12-foot ceilings, that's 3.7 meters. The taller the space, you need to move up a bit in height, but you don't want to go so high that people are kinking their necks up to see. And don't start adding extra feet to the height. Think about adding a few inches, like 2 inches per extra foot of ceiling height. Now, the larger the room, the more you can look up without raising your head as much. So bigger rooms can have artwork higher on the walls. On tall rooms like the 12-foot ceilings or 3.7 meters I have, you can look at placing the center halfway. In this case, 6 feet or 72 inches, 182 centimeters. In my case, I wanted to give some room above the rail at the bottom, and I wanted to give the print some presence, so I added 6 extra inches to get the center at 78 inches. That's 200 centimeters. I'd say this is the high end of the range to consider here. As for my new spaces, I want the tops of the prints to be the same height as the Milky Way print. But given they're taller, the center will be lower. Turns out it will be 66 inches, the same as the flower painting that I have, and just 6 inches lower than the halfway mark on the wall to the ceiling height. Okay, now we've figured out where, how big, what orientation, and what aspect ratio. We need to figure out what print. There are 2 things to think about here, subject and colors. As for subject, I could make it a local subject like owls, as I have some great owl shots like these. I also have some great Milky Way shots I like in portrait orientation, but I already have a Milky Way shot mounted on the wall. I need something different, so I decided I wanted to go with a more exotic look of African species. As for colors, there's no need to match artwork to wall color, which is Fresh Air by Benjamin Moore in my case. You can if you want to. I did choose my Milky Way shot in part because of its match to my furniture and my kitchen island, but that's not needed. It's just a personal choice. As for colors, I decided not to outcompete my very saturated Milky Way panorama and go with cooler and paler colors, almost like a desaturated look. Now I have tons of African photos to work with, but some of them would just be too loud for the wall color, like these, just too in your face and contrasty with the wall. In the end, I decided on a lion shot and an elephant shot. Now, because they're flanking each side of the fireplace, I want them facing each other, looking in towards the fireplace. If your favorite shot is looking the wrong way, like towards the outside wall, you may want to flip the orientation. I like these photos because they're not about pixel peeping and the details like on feather detail on a bird photo. They're about the presence and the pose, and they look good from a distance. Now, when it comes to accent lights, these are a very personal choice, and it does add some cost. Does your artwork sit in a very dark area? You might want to add some lights, or do you want your artwork to stand out from the rest of the room or be more subdued? Do you need the artwork lights as accent lights to make your room look better? These are all questions to ask yourself. In my case, I wanted my acrylic pieces to stand out as artwork and be highlighted rather than sit there invisibly, even if I chose desaturated and not too loud prints. I bought LED lights that are hardwired. Many art accent lights have a plug or are battery powered, so choose wisely. In terms of positioning, these lights project a widening cone, so they don't always need to be the full width of your artwork. Also, check the color temperature of the light you're buying. If it doesn't match the rest of the room's lights, it may seriously affect the color palette of your print or your photo. Some come with a color gel strip you can use to change the temperature of the light. A related point is that a great way to know what impact different finishes will have in reflections is to order a sample set from Whitewall before making your final order. They'll send you a bunch of different finishes to help you make the right choice. In short, if you have a lot of windows in your room, be very cautious with the glossy finishes that will reflect the window light and the windows, so in your print you may see as much of outside as your print. Okay, now I've got my photos chosen, size selected, I'm ready to go. Now it's time to go to the Whitewall site for ordering my prints, who are the sponsor of this video. They did an amazing job on my big Milky Way panorama print, so I was super confident I'd be pleased with the result again. They've won the Best Photo Lab Worldwide award several times, and do anything from canvas to metal to printing on wood and photo prints, and even have stores in New York, Paris, and London and others to check out their work. If you want to see the complete ordering process in detail and which options I like for my acrylic prints, click up here to see my previous video when ordering a white wall print. But come back to make sure you see the final product. Don't forget to experiment with the image optimization slider. I was quite surprised I like using this given I do my own post-processing. But it's great for bringing out some extra contrast for your work for viewing at a distance. 33% on this elephant shot was perfect, even though I used something like 70% on my Milky Way shot. Adjust it to taste. And don't forget to click the 3D view icon and move the print around to see how a high gloss finish will reflect light in a room with lots of windows. Because my prints are going to be tucked into corners next to my fireplace, I'm not too worried about reflections. So I'm going to go for the glossy look to match my other white wall print. Okay, here are my two prints, 80 by 100 centimeters. And by the way, Whitewall gives you size options for your exact aspect ratio of your photo. You don't need to fit their sizes, they fit yours. Fuji Crystal Archive paper, aluminum rails for hanging, 4mm thickness of acrylic glass, and in glossy. They give you an estimated delivery date and tracking number 2. Done. And less than 2 weeks later, all the way from Germany to Canada, I get 2 packages by courier. These things are really well packaged. And here's me opening them and seeing them for the first time. These acrylic prints look amazing. It's time to get these on the wall and see how they look. Oh, these make a statement. The accent lights really make them look great, especially at night. That's a fantastic look and accents to my fireplace. Tasteful and not too overpowering, balanced in the right size and visual weight for the space. Check out my room now. Awesome. If you're looking for a serious high-quality print lab that can deliver all over the world, give Whitewall a look and use code WWSimonSaves for 10% off. There's a link in the show notes below. Printing your photos and hanging them proudly on your wall is one of the most satisfying things to do as a photographer. Just the feel of your work in front of you and in your hands is a great reward for all the hard work you put into it. Makes a great gift too. I hope you can get out there soon and use the tips in this video to take and print your own unique and amazing photos. I know you can do it.